Peace, peace, everyone. How are you? This is Elder Jeffrey Blair from the St. Louis branch of the Israelite Nation Worldwide Ministries. And I'm coming to you live from St. Louis, along with my brethren here in St. Louis, for our Friday night Bible study.
Peace, everyone.
Peace.
So let me introduce everybody to who I have on with me today. I have Minister Anthony.
Peace. Hope everyone's doing well.
Absolutely. I have Shelby Brown.
Peace.
And also Ezra. Ezra's on as well.
Peace.
All right. Peace, brethren. How are you guys doing this evening?
Great.
Great?
Yeah.
Great. Oh, yeah. I'm excited. I'm always excited.
Okay, good. Yeah. No, opportunity for us to open up the God of Israel's word, as well as for us to, as an Israelite, look at various things that are happening in the world, happening around us, and be able to really decipher them and help people understand, kind of what's really going on. Prior to coming into Israel, you kind of were, drawn into this philosophy or that philosophy, getting this perspective from Fox News or MSNBC or whatever, outlet you may look at, or just, the whole world view has just been shaped by so many things. But now, being a part of Israelite Nation Worldwide Ministries, we're able to see things clearly. And it's really good to be able to open your eyes and look at things, open the scriptures and see things and see how they all match. So, yes, hey, peace, Felicia. Yes, really good to see you. Definitely, if you guys are on and watching us right now, we have our new format, which is now, I guess it's about 4 weeks old now that we've been doing this.
Yep. Right.
So that's really, really cool. I'm hoping you guys are liking it. So please share with your audience and your network. Like, share, comment, subscribe. Make sure, we do this because we want to make sure that what we received freely, we want to make sure we give that freely, right? So that we can share this truth with all those who have the eyes to see and be a light for our nation and for our culture. So we're real thankful to be here today. So again, just making sure that everybody has a chance to get in a comfortable position, get your Bibles out, and get ready for a great discussion. So we're going to be talking about the conspiracy to destroy Israelite boys.
Oh, man.
The conspiracy to destroy Israelite boys. That's what we're going to be talking about today. And it's not a one-way conversation. So please, as you guys are hearing things, as you guys are thinking things, as we hit on these particular topics and subtopics, please jump in there, ask your questions, make your comments, agree or disagree. It doesn't matter. This is a dialogue. So we want to be able to edify each other as we go through this evening. So let me just ask again, how you guys been? How's your week been? How are things?
Oh, man, it's been kind of crazy, right? As you know, right, some of us traveled up to Canada to participate in baptism this past weekend. But when we got back, oh my goodness,
yes.
As some people may be aware or not aware of, St. Louis, the state of Missouri, is actually under state of emergency because we've been dealing with some heavy floods, and it's been it's one of those things where Missouri has always kind of dealt with floods, but this is the first time where it really hit close to home.
Yeah.
Where literally the streets, if we were going down the street, it was blocked off because the water is so high.
Yeah. Hey, Elder Denise, excited about this topic? Yes, we are too. Yeah. I'm glad that you get excited about it. We felt this would be good for us to really, talk about this, something that was near and dear to all our hearts as men here in America, as what they would call black men, Jacobite men who are now Israelite men. It's a real, very, in some ways, bittersweet experience. So Shelby, how's this week been for you?
Oh, it's been great. It's been a lot of watching the news, seeing all the flooding going on, and just wow, trying to stay dry.
Yeah. Yes.
It's really just it's amazing to see it happen in 2 days, 2 days in a row. It's just wow, you never know. You just never know.
So hey, let me producer, if we could play that video for those who may not know, maybe they saw in the news, maybe not, just to show a little clip of kind of what we've been experiencing here in St. Louis. Can you play that video, please?
crazy. The highway.
Tonight, stunning images of the latest American city to get slammed with severe weather. Across St. Louis, historic rainfall and flash flooding.
We got called out hard here.
Forcing rescue after rescue.
We have 7 people trapped on a roof.
Roughly 100 people trapped in these apartments, evacuated by boat.
I was terrified because it's just so high.
More than 9 inches of rain falling since midnight, shattering records set in 1915 and turning highways and roads into raging rivers.
It was so dangerous with the water flow, we had to pull them out. We couldn't even get our trucks out.
Authorities confirming one person trapped in their car has died.
We're good. That's good. Thanks, producer. Since it's going jumpy, I just wanted you guys to get a sense of kind of what we've been experiencing. And I got to say that, like you said, we went to our baptism and then came that night that we arrived back home. This is what happened. I remember that night it was just pouring and you know, I'm in bed, but I'm like, wow, this is really hitting it hard. I had no idea that there was such a big issue. Thank goodness, like in my home or a business, there was a little bit of water damage, but nothing like what you guys just saw. But I did lose power. And when I was driving down the street, one of the main strips here, I saw cars sort of like stranded in very odd directions all down the street. I'm like, what's going on? I had no idea. And the water had actually floated the cars to those spots. It was really surreal to see. So it was, and so as you guys heard, yes, thank you, Denise. Yeah, and we the God of Israel kept us all safe. We checked in with each other here at the St. Louis branch, and again, there was some water, a little bit here and there, some power loss, a little bit here and there, but nothing major. Everyone was safe, and nothing really major. So thank goodness for that. But it was crazy, right? Because you guys, I don't know if you guys heard, but this much rain has not come down that quickly for over 100 years. Back to like 1915 was the last time anything like this. Right. This is not something that we're used to here in St. Louis. It totally just sort of blew us away.
Right.
Oh no, you make a good point of how hard and fast it came down. Actually, Sunday, I was on my way to work, and I just like, it's just raining a little bit. And as I get on the highway, I'm like, this isn't normal. Like normally, you can kind of see while you're driving. Literally, I could not see it to the out the front window, out the side window. I'd had to pull over on the side of the road. I end up just turning around going back home. I end up driving down the opposite direction of oncoming traffic, just to get back home because the water was rising so fast.
Yeah. And it's no joke.
Very scary moment.
Flash flooding can pick up your car and make you go. Yeah. Oh yeah, JM says Kentucky also 19 people died in Kentucky.
Wow.
Yeah, so that's crazy. So people were like, is it global warming? Is it just all these different theories as to why this would happen? But I got to tell you, as an Israelite, with Israelite eyes, I know everything happens, it's spiritual. Everything happens around us is spiritual. We may not always know it or see exactly how it is all connected, but we know behind the scenes it's always spiritual. And so I know St. Louis, I live here. I moved here over 10 years now. Proud to be a part of this city, and my children are raised here and have business here, and my branch is here, so I love it. But St. Louis, wow, it's really some place that has a very, very heavy, oppressive spiritual weight.
Oh,
Am I overspeaking?
Mm-hmm.
Right? Yeah, spiritual weight.
That's right.
Yeah. And so, and different. I've lived other places. I've lived in California. I lived in New York. I lived in Florida. I've lived around different places, and but here is definitely that. And so, what I think, something spiritual happened today that just totally shook up the elements. Something that that doesn't usually happen. Something that's totally just shook it up. And what that happened is that we had 2 strong young men stand up and get baptized in the name of the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, and the God of Jacob.
Amen.
They went through the waters, they went through the fires, they proclaimed who they are, and as soon as they touched back down in St. Louis, everything just got crazy. It went up, just turned upside down. The waters just gushed up. Somebody was just describing to me, it wasn't just the water coming down, water was gushing up through the street. The pipes were coming up and bursting up through the street. It just chaos, totally. So we got two of those young men right here, Shelby Brown and Ezra, who actually got baptized this year with baptism. Congratulations, you guys, for taking
Yes, congratulations.
going through the water, going through the fire, proclaiming your commitment to the God of Israel.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna just give you guys a couple seconds. Hey, Tina Jackson, yes, absolutely. Hip hip Hosanna. Talk to us a little bit. What made you take that step, and how you feeling right now?
I feel great. I'm so glad that I finally, was able to know the truth and to just it was courage. It was, as Elder said, Elder Castrilli said, stay the course. And then we had I watched a video of Elder Kurt, and he was like, you have to take that leap of faith and go over it. Once you have to take that leap of faith. And I decided, a while back, I'm taking the leap of faith. It's most definitely. I know he knows who I am. I know who he is now, and I'm excited, and I'm just moving forward. There's no stopping.
Yes. Felicia says congratulations, Shelby and Ezra.
Thank you.
Before that, Hilaire was mentioning that the power of baptism just took shook those evil spirits here in St. Louis. We're about to do some amazing things here. How about you, Ezra? How you feeling now? Just coming out of the water, still damp.
Yeah, feeling refreshed, just left headquarters. So coming back and putting the arms back to work in the St. Louis branch. Yeah, and I think the water coming with us, as we said, nothing is a coincidence.
Right.
And we know that, our God controls this nature, and he controls the flow of the water, and we know the importance of water in our culture. So I don't take it as a coincidence, I take it as a sign of strength and as a sign of walking in the right direction.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
100%. Everyone's saying congratulations to you guys. So absolutely. It's not an easy thing. And so I really salute you guys, and I'm excited about what we're about to do here in the St. Louis branch. So if you guys are in the area, please connect with us so you can, gotta be a part of it or get out of the way, because we're coming out here in St. Louis.
Oh yeah, let's do some work.
Absolutely. And so a part of that too is one of the reasons why I really, really wanted us to kind of hit this topic, because one of the main issues that plagues the Black community, Jacobites, is the state of the men, especially the young men.
Yeah.
And so the conspiracy to destroy Israelite boys is, not a play on words. It's really something. It kind of is a follow-up to the lesson that you guys did a few months back. At that time, Teacher Anthony and Ezra, where it was the role of men, I think it was.
Yep. The role of men.
Yeah. Tell us a little bit about that before we jump into the details of this one.
A few weeks ago, we kind of really dove into what does it really mean to be a man, right? There's a worldview of what men should and shouldn't do. And then we know we have our cultural view, so to speak, of what men should and shouldn't do and how we should behave and how we should go about life and dealing with our emotions. So we kind of went through the whole gambit of real surface level of just everyday men, interactions with each other, interactions with the world, and just how we should, kind of mold ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
Ezra, your thoughts?
Yeah, I remember that lesson. And we dove into the scriptures and have a look at, our examples in there as to how to be and how they handle situations, and try to pull some of the characteristics that we read about and try to apply that and what that looks like in 2022.
Yeah, absolutely. You guys did a great job. Got a lot of feedback. As a matter of fact, some of the feedback was, please come and do a part 2. Right? Yeah.
Here we are.
Absolutely. So I think, people are really like, this is something. I get some of those conversations all the time is, how do I keep my son on the right path type of thing? That's the conversation I have almost a daily basis, because it's not easy. So what I want us to do at this point then is to kind of look at the state. Let's look at some information that's out there to give us a clue about what is the state of Jacobite boys out there. Producer, well, before we get to that, so one of the things too why I wanted to talk about this topic is we're at the end of the summer and we're about to start a new school year. And so, we're kind of, COVID is kind of there flourishing. Hey, thank you, Hilaire, for that donation. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Kind of, but schools are opening up and the children are going to be going in. And one of the things that they're realizing is that our children are really far behind, really far behind.
Sure.
And some of the studies have shown that our children, especially our Black boys, Jacobite boys, are, their levels of proficiency are be going back to like 20 years. They've lost 20 years of progress, let's say, and they weren't really great before the COVID. There was a big achievement gap. There still was struggles as far as keeping our boys engaged and on the right path. And now it's gotten even worse. And so they're really bracing themselves to try to see what they're going to do. In addition to the fact that they don't have enough people to teach them, there's a lot of teachers who are not coming back. So, I thought it was just very like, okay, this is something we need to talk about as Israelites, so that we can kind of really make sure that, number one, we show that we at Israelite Nationwide Ministries are the light and the solution for that problem.
Amen.
Two, that we in Israel make sure as parents, as a community, as a nation, we're making sure we're insulating our boys so that they do not fall victim to some of those ills that are out there in the world as well.
Right.
Oh yeah, without a doubt. Like you said, especially it's sad and very ironic, right? To say that they're falling behind when they've already been behind.
Yeah, exactly.
And how do you? So now the goal is to get them back to the point where they were when they already were behind. So the conversation isn't even being had as far as can we get them past that level.
Yes.
Where you're already at that line, and it's so sad and it's so it's so detrimental that everybody's looking around like, what's the answer? Where do we go from here?
Yes. And the Israelite Nation Worldwide Ministries is the answer. That is the answer, right? That's what it is. All these other things that people are trying, the reason they're not working is because they're not based on the truth. They're not based on our culture, not based on the understanding about who we are. That's the answer. And so if you guys were looking for like where we're going to go with the answer, you can kind of like, you don't have to fast forward to the end. That's the answer. But we're going to get there. You want to show how we kind of get there. Thank you, Felicia Harris.
Yes, thank
for the
you.
donation. And yes, I think a much needed lesson for sure, because if we don't do it, who will?
Right.
Who's going to fix this?
True.
Someone else is going to fix this? We have to fix this for ourselves, and it's about us being that light. So let's look at that. Let's bring in some things to kind of see in various arenas how are Black boys doing, so we can kind of really look at this. Producer, can you bring up Ed 2? Ed 2 from Washington Post. All right. So this is, and again, we don't have to look far. We had news articles from Washington Post, New York Times, Wall Street Journal, all the different news outlets are really reporting on this. This one in particular is an example of different universities that are trying to do what they can do to really make sure that they are finding young boys that can even take advantage of the opportunities that are being made there. At one time in our history, it was illegal for us to read, right? It was illegal for us to read or have books. And then it was illegal for us to even go to higher education. It was very much, not going to happen. And so now where there's a lot of opportunities that are out there now voluntarily, a lot of our boys are choosing not to go that path. Don't like school. I don't want to, this just following a different path. I'm not going that way. What happened?
Oh man, I believe a lot with, just our society, just how the society has portrayed doing things to be successful in other ways. We like to say starting businesses, but that's one way that a lot of people are looking. But when you really look at it, it's society is pushing other things like music. They're sending different messages, and the boys they're running to what they seem to be easier. And it's so funny because everybody's like a rapper these days, and so it's really stopping the gaps. It's really making the gaps bigger. Instead of them going after their businesses or going to school, everybody is getting in some form or of music. Sorry, Israel. I'm just joking. But they're moving towards music, and if it's not music, it's some form of a hustle. We hear all the time, and that's just pushing the gap wider because that's what they chase. They listen to the music, they chase those dreams instead of chasing the other side, businesses and school. We can be great in that aspect too.
Yep.
Mm.
Yeah. No, I understand. So what? So let's listen from the rapper that's on. I mean, we have a rapper on. What do you take offense to what Shelby said just now?
No, because if other people stop, it'll probably make it easier for me. No, but I think in general, I think in general though, a big part of it is like role models, and I think it's about where you see yourself. And so when you look at media and influence and social media and um, you have a certain image that maybe you associate yourself with, and you associate people that look like you with, and I think you kind of are gonna walk down those paths naturally. And so if you don't see those role models, whether it's in your community or even online, or if you don't see people that look like you in these various fields reaching out to you or available to you, then sometimes you don't see yourself as being a part of that community, or you don't see your life going in those directions.
Mm.
No, absolutely. So Felicia Singleton says everyone's trying to be an influencer.
Right.
And prior to that, Patricia Sams, I think it was. Bring that back. Thank you, Danny Glover, for the donation. Thank you very much for that. Taking the easy road. Yeah, absolutely, taking the easy road. And then prior to that, I believe Hines had said, yeah, agreeing with you, Shelby, that money, the easy way to make money, as well.
Mm.
So no, thank you for those comments. And yeah, absolutely, yeah. So, but and we'll get to that a little bit, but just I will just to drop a little bit of what we're going to talk about in a second is, it's one of those things where this term society is presenting these things to them, these alternatives to them, influencing, focusing on the money perspective, the easy way, so on and so forth. But where are we as men to tell our young men, no, don't go that way, go this way, because we need, where's that conversation taking place?
I think that's an interesting point, right? When we say what happened, right, that's to signal that there was a time in our history where this was corrected, right? But you can't really pinpoint that year or that era in which this was done right. So even going back to the years of my grandfather or even my parents, right, it was always the mindset was go get a job. Go get a job, take care of your family. Go get a job, take care of your family.
Mm-hmm.
So interestingly enough, right, when we look at education and we look at exactly what our role is, like you said before, at one point in time, we wasn't allowed to go and read. So even I think even as a child growing up, right, education wasn't really pushed. It was more or less go work, go get a job, go work to go get something established.
That's curious. Good point you bring up. And let me ask the audience, older folk or whoever, it doesn't matter. What was that like for you? What was pushed in your house or from your parents or individuals who took care of you? Was it go work, go get a job? Was it go get money? Was it go to school, get education? What were some of the things that you were pushed into? Because it's one of those things, right? We talk about our children making these decisions to go in these different directions, but almost like, well, where's the parent influence? Where's the parent guiding? Like, we sometimes it feels like every generation has to figure it out by themselves. Chris Mathis says, the line is thin for Black young men between success and failure. The weakness of the Black culture pushed too many over that thin line to dropping out of school or taking the easy route.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I agree.
So even more of a reason why we need to be involved. Like we need to be having these conversations. If it's that thin, if it's that easy, for our boys to be, swayed one way or the other, that's even more of a reason for us to take responsibility, because we just can't leave it for chance.
Right.
Education, but we had no guidance.
Mm.
Gotcha.
Yeah, I think there was in different generations, it pushed different things. Say like in my father's generation, I think they would push more so like Minister Anthony said, into get up, get out, get a job. You know, that was the thing. And then as we moved to like my generation, which was right Generation X, I guess they call. In my generation, it was like go to college. You need to go to college, and that's what we strive for. But this generation had, to me, seems a little bit more disrupted because of all the technology and music, you know, all the influence that is just disrupted this generation. They've been pushed to do other things, which we could look at it and say, you know, that's good because, you know, you want them to be business owners and things of that sort, but we still need school. We still need someone's to go to school and run businesses because we sometimes get lost, you know, just not knowing once again. So
No, no, absolutely, yeah, no, absolutely, and I think that's right. Each generation there are different needs, and we kind of talked about this a little bit, where if our fathers or grandfathers during that era, when providing for the family was tough, and again, it wasn't like it is now, it was overt racism and discrimination, by law. I couldn't be here, couldn't be there, couldn't get this job, whatever. And so, getting a job was like, you need to get a job in order to, fight to get a job in order to take care of your family, So now, again, which things probably changed, the discussion that we have as far as the opportunities that are before us, it needs to change as well, right? And so there were some comments earlier, if producer could bring that back. Chris Mathis, plus the greater society is designed to police and punish us. The school to prison pipeline is real. Yes, thank you, Chris, for that. There's some other comments there that Willie Jackson said, get a job, take care of your family. That's what was told him when he was growing up. Exactly, Albert Crump, have your own business. Yeah. So various things, right? Various things. I guess overall, the idea again, in Israel, we understand that at different stages in your life, and our law, statutes, commandments encompasses all that. There are responsibilities for boys, responsibilities for girls, expectations for older young men, expectations for elders, and for widows, and for all those items. And so all that is encompassing into this culture, into this nation. And so all those things, and the reason, one of the reasons why we have so much chaos is because we're all disjointed, following different perspectives, different goals, different values, right? You think about so far, many of the things that I've heard is that, oh yeah, do certain to make money, like that's the goal, and obviously we need money. We definitely need that, but it's for us, we teach our children from the time that they're born all the way through. Part of education, the part of this process is not just about getting money. It's about understanding, how do you learn about yourself, the world, how to produce, how to maneuver, how to be successful, and of course, the spiritual part, understanding who your God is and who your people are, and how to perform in the right way. So the nation expects those things from you, for you to perform at a high level, so that you could be a part of this nation as an adult, as a productive part of this adult, to help create this nation and to take us along the way. Corrine Holder says the sadness part in the Black successful movie makers make movies constantly about the ghetto, hustle life. The ones that are in school are bullied by the drug dealers to stop school in the movies.
Interesting. I have an interesting perspective when it comes to movies and music and things of this nature. It's not like positive movies aren't out there. They just don't go under the support. The same thing with the music. It just doesn't go under the support. What does sell is the downtrodden, the ghetto.
Thank you, Chris.
Oh yes, definitely. It's the all the nonsense That's what sells. That's what honestly a lot of us like to go and watch. We talk about different shows on Netflix or Hulu or what have you. And most of the time, sometimes is garnered in that destruction of the Black community.
Well, the conspiracy. There's a reason, right? Why all those things are there. Let's keep going. So those are some of the things. Producer, can you bring up achievement gap slides? Just want you guys to see how really bad this is. All right. So we're looking at, and you guys may have heard this before. I'm not sure, but all over the world. So I'm not sure if in Canada, if you guys are familiar with that term, or even in the UK or the Caribbean. But the academic achievement gap is where, looking at, in this case, fourth graders, right? And the standardized test at the end of fourth grade to say, are you at the level that a fourth grader should be at in this particular subject? And this particular subject, right? I believe is it reading? Yes, in reading, which is foundational to it, right? In 2009, for example, the gray line, white males in fourth grade, 38% were proficient. In other words, they were at the level that you should be for a fourth grader. In 2009, only 11% of Black males. Right? Only 11%. That means you had 10 Black kids sitting in class. Only one of them knows what's going on in that class.
Yeah.
I want you guys to really digest that for a second, because this is not like a unique case. Again, I've traveled around a bit. I've seen this in all the major cities and every place that we are, and it's sad to see. It's sad to see, right? Because we know who we are deep down. We know who we are, that we are children of the Almighty God, that we are been chosen by the God of Israel, right? And we are a special people with a special heritage, a special legacy. But we see the condition that we're in particular, our young boys in this state where they're underachieving, underperforming, and being fooled to go in these negative directions. We think about, wow, how this is the next generation. How is this going to work if can't read? No wonder they're going to go to sports or something else, because,
it's the only thing that's stimulating.
If you can't read in fourth grade, you ain't going to handle middle school and high school. It's not going to work out.
Exactly.
Wow, those disparities are crazy. Absolutely. Producer, can you go to the Kirkwood slide 3? So when people look at this, sometimes they were like, okay, poverty, right? A lot of the Black schools will be in lower socioeconomic areas. And then a lot of, mostly white people may go into more affluent areas. So you got better schools, right? So maybe that's the reason for it, right? But I when I first moved to St. Louis, I moved to Kirkwood, which is a middle to affluent, predominantly white area. And the schools, I just was being led by whatever the schools are the best schools as far as the numbers. And so Kirkwood was one of them. So, and one of the best districts in the state of Missouri. And so we're there. But then what this graph shows is, okay, overall, you're doing very well. But if you were to segment and look at how the white students are doing to the Black students, you'll see, wow, they're doing a little better than maybe in the predominantly Black schools, but still a big disparity. Here's an example. This is in English language arts, again, reading. And this is also at what grade level? Oh, different grade levels. Okay, so even let's go to the fourth grade, right? The very similar one. Here we have, man, I can't even zoom on this.
29.8% gap. For African Americans, 61.7.
Yes. So if you got 10 Black kids in the class, 6 know what's going on, 4 don't.
Yeah.
Right? They're not proficient, right? Here, fifth grade, it's a lot worse. It's like 40%. The point is, it reminds me of Deuteronomy 28 all over again, right? Where wherever you are, you will be the tail and not the head. Our children should not be in this state. Our children should not be in the state. But the situation is, most of us are sending our children to these schools. Most of us are subjecting our children to these schools. And the question has to be, are they flourishing? Is it what they need? It's a tough decision for me as a parent. You understand, how do I make sure I give my children the best I can do, especially our boys? All right, education, definitely. Any other thoughts before we jump onto the other one?
Since coming to Israel, I'll say this, and because we have a teacher here in St. Louis, very special, that really has shown us, right, that for as much as we look and want to point and say, well, look what's happening, look what's happening. Just like you said, if we're actively sending our children into these situations, knowing that it's not getting any better, it starts to become a little insane after a while.
Right.
Steve Field says, we must be aware that these tests our children take in these schools are set up by and for their children to comprehend and do better than our children.
True.
So, Steve Fields, I think that's that can be a component on that, but not necessarily. I don't know if I totally agree with that 100%.
Yeah, I think it's a gap, right? When I was younger, I was in the DSEG program, which is a desegregation program, started a long time ago, right? Back in the 60s when integration started. What happened is they wanted to take certain kids who, I just say they wanted to take certain kids in the Black community who were seen as worthwhile and bus them to these white schools for a better education. And I always remember.
Thank you, Felicia, for the donation.
Oh yes, I had no idea what central air was. I didn't grow up. I didn't live in a house, so I had no idea that a air conditioning unit sat on the back of the house. And I remember them calling my parents like, "Hey, he might need to go to special education because he's not aware of what these items are, what these things are." And it was just it was something as a kid I didn't really understand what was going on. And but as I got older, I was just like, "Wow, that's crazy."
Yeah. No, absolutely. I think what C Fields had said, I think absolutely there is some cultural and some things that are definitely going to put us at a disadvantage because they're created by the dominant culture, and their children are in that environment are definitely going to see. I think that is a component, but we're not just talking about those like national standardized tests. We're talking about you got 10 Black kids and 10 white kids in the same class, right?
Mm-hmm.
The same material, same teacher being taught to them, the same homework assignments, the same books, the same thing, right? These things are not necessarily, someone that's not here. All in the same environment, the same community, but yet and still, you look at when the exam comes back and you put all the scores in order, all the white kids will be at the top, or the Black kids will be at the bottom, especially the Black boys will be at the very bottom. Now, I'm not trying to put up a dirty laundry out there. I'm not trying to bring up this to, whatever, but we got to talk about the truth of the fact of these things. And a lot of these things are not, let me back up. But Patricia Sam says, oh, yes, the schools admins love to send our children to these special. Absolutely. That's definitely one of the things that we saw as well, is the number of times that our children are being disciplined and going for suspension, as well as the number of times that they're being disciplined for the same thing. Absolutely. That's another reason why, again, our schools sometimes, by sending our children to these schools is something we really got to think about, especially our boys. Yeah. Well, welcome back, Ezra. But one of the things that I want to note is that as we talk about these things, I want to make sure if the parents of children are really listening, none of these things really do I want to say that our children are inherently dumb or our children just can't hack it. They're not intelligent enough. I don't believe in those IQ tests and all those various things that our children are brilliant. I mean, make sure to say that our children are brilliant, but I think like we talked about before, the easy way out, the different path, I think a lot of times the decisions that we make they're being made on a daily basis. How much time are they spending studying? How much time are they spending doing homework? How much time are they doing this? Those type of things that are going to actually get you to be in the top of the class. Are they doing those things?
No, those are some of the things that's missing, and that's what I've seen when I came here and saw the Israelite culture. Right, is people take time out to show the children that they appreciate it, and then that gives that boost that energy, that morale to say, I want to do more. I'll push harder because look at how this is something that's been appreciated. This is something that I'm seeing a good reward from, and it don't have to be some just a reward, but the feeling from parents, the feeling from family, the whole culture in itself, just watching it. And I remember when I went to my first feast and I seen how he was put on grandstand, like, hey, I wish I would have felt like that too. The whole family there talking to you and encouraging you to move forward. Like, that was a beautiful thing. And that's something that we don't see in society on the other side of everything now.
Yeah. I said Willie Jackson says our boys want to be popular and not the smartest kids. Can you speak to that, Ezra?
I mean, yeah, it's. I think as people get older, as children get older, it's well known that I believe that their value or their influences shift from their parents to their peers now being a louder voice in their ear, and a louder influence on their lives. And we usually start to see that shift around middle school, because that's when there's usually social dynamics start to build, friendships, and there is this, and you can be excluded. And so everyone and no one wants to be excluded. And so we see our Black boys group together often, and the peers often influence each other.
Right.
Yeah. Veronica Hall says children should be taught at home first, and we are our first children's teacher.
Amen. I love that so much. Thank you, Veronica, because it really speaks to the majority of the some of the issues. Our children will start off, a child's first heroes are their parents, and so if that parent takes a value interest in that child's education, then so will that child. But if that parent is only concerned with how a child looks, how they dress, what sports they're playing, then that child is going to take on that mindset as well, and maybe not to be able to differentiate between, hey, this is something for leisure activity, where this is something that's going to really set me up for the rest of my life. And so then that goal then becomes I need to be a professional athlete, or I need to I need to go and look a certain way, or always be just like I was said, the popular kid.
Mm-hmm.
So I definitely think is yes, definitely that learning starts at home first and foremost.
Absolutely.
To that comment, I'm sorry, Israel, but to that comment about being the smartest kid, you look at say Elon Musk, somebody who he probably was a nerd in school, him and the Facebook guy, they were probably nerds in school. Now they're the popular, but our generation, our culture, our kids don't see it this way right now. They're not seeing it that way. They're seeing, well, let's be popular through, other things like you just spoke of, Minister Anthony, and that's what is stopping. That's what is a hindrance. We don't have that. That's a block to me.
Yeah, and even to add to that, I believe that part of that has to do with living for the present, and versus planning for planning for the future. And I think that is also related to, I feel like, being guided, and being guided in a direction in which you're constantly preparing for your future, instead of living for the now. Because sometimes you have to sacrifice things now in order for you to have a better life later, and to have a better life in your future. And so I think that is a aspect that I think needs to be added to our culture. And I mean, from everything, whether it's education, whether it's savings, I think there's a range of things in which we need to learn how to not only live for ourselves, but remember that we will have children one day, and those children will have children one day. And we want to make sure that we have things that we can pass down to them, and they have things that they can pass down to their children, and so that we can build, as they say, generational wealth.
Oh yeah.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. There was a comment there. I think it was C Fields or Corrine Holder. The other thing that seems to be happening is the way some teachers handle the Black kids. They are not always treated with kindness or encouraged to do the schoolwork and learn. They are put down. Yeah, I've heard many stories like that, and I've heard, where children they may not feel like this is their school. Like this is being proud about what it is that they're part of. And again, hey, it's a part of this again is we can do this all we want, and while we continue to do this, there's nothing new. It's not gonna just happen today or happened a week ago or a month ago. This happened in my generation. This happening in all the way through till even now. And what are we going to do about it? How does that? The only reason our children can be strongly influenced by these things is because we're not embracing them or putting the things around them to protect them against these things, and sometimes parents are even falling into that. We're falling along with that. Case in point, many times you go to a school, if there's a football game, every parent's going to be there. They're going to be watching there. They're going to be rooting and really just carrying it on and making it a real big deal. They're going to talk about it in the barbershops and do all these various things, but everything happening on that day. But here comes parent-teacher conference. Here comes a STEM program. Right. Here comes some, academic achievement, something like that. Chirp, 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 that. And a lot of this has to be, some of these things are there, but the things are our parents, are we participating in it? And not just participating in it, are we really hyping it up to make it like our children something special? Our children can read that. Our children can read that. Hey, I went and I just got a touchdown, and you're making this big deal about it. Hey, I just got A's. Hey, that's good. And then you move on. Like, those clues of kind of what excites you, they pick up on it. You know what I mean? So it's important for us to really be consistent about the things that we're saying, the things that we're doing, and demonstrating to our children because they understand.
Well, I think even to add to that, when we talk about this Israelite culture, we have, I believe that we have programs that really help our children see that, and that way we have time and we take the time to honor them. As we have our Rise Youth Group, and we also have our iPride. And I think, shout out
Rise, shout out iPride, absolutely. Sevens in there for our young organizations, Rise and iPride. Tell people about Rise who don't know what that is.
Rise is a youth group restoring Israelite self-awareness through education, and through we lead by example. So we have our older Rise members, and we also have our younger Rise members, and we make sure that our older Rise members are constantly guiding our younger Rise members, and that way we are connected across the branches to make sure that us as youth in this nation are strong and confident in ourselves. And another thing to add to that is also our iPride. And I think we have our iPride event every year, but I believe even things like that are so important for.
What's iPride for those who may not know what iPride is?
iPride is I'm
Israelite parents.
Yeah.
Israelite parents determining educational excellence, I think.
Okay, there you go. I think so. So with our iPod event, we are able to glorify our children and for their academic achievements, and of course as well as their other achievements outside of school as well. But also making sure that there's a balance between what we praise, to make sure that we praise them for their A's and we praise them for their good grades, because it does matter, because we want to make sure that our children have futures and that we set them up to have good futures. And so every year, me personally, I believe that that every year that I've received one, it's motivating, and I've seen it in even the little children striving to get that iPride award for that year, wanting to make sure they do well in school to make sure that they get their iPride award. I think just seeing their smiles and seeing them so joyous, and to see the whole nation clap for them and applaud for them whenever they are able to have a good semester, I believe that is encouraging, and that's the type of culture that we see here in this Israelite nation that we use to encourage our youth.
Absolutely. It's a big deal. It's a big deal here every year. And thank you, Catherine Brown, for your donation. Some of the other comments, I think C. Fields said, you're right, Elder Jeffrey, a lot of our people don't spend time at our children's school activities unless it's dealing with sports. Yeah, absolutely. And, again, here at Israelite Nation Ministries, that's, the reason that we're here is that we want to, we want to see things as they actually are so that we can truly take us to where we need to go. And we need to really find ourselves accountable and responsible for our children and making sure that we're preparing them not just to get a job, just out of trouble, preparing them to succeed and lead us into the next chapter. Right. 400 is over, right? So what's happening next, right? We can't just sit around twiddling our thumbs. We need to always be prepared, preparing ourselves and preparing the next generation for what's to come. And that needs to be our mantra, every day, what we're doing, because the alternative is The other side understands the value of our children. That's why they're attacked. They understand the value of our boys. That's why they're attacked. That's why they're minimized. That's why they're being given all these false items to really focus on as being important, when really the trivial compared to the bigger picture is how to take our people from where we are to reach our full potential where we're supposed to be as children of the Almighty God. And that's not an easy task. It's all of us working together to make that happen.
And think about it, right? Even if the world is focused on elevating Jacobite children, their goal is to assimilate them into their culture.
That's right. For their purpose. Their purpose. Come, dance for me. Dance for me. Sing for me. Play for me. Yeah.
I'm gonna give you all the best education as long as you come and do what we want you to do.
Absolutely. Take your gifts to build up my society. What about our society?
Right.
People always talk about white privilege. Like, well, what about black privilege? What's white privilege, right?
Let's get that going.
Exactly. Let's keep going. A couple things. That's in the education sphere, but the problems don't just stay there. It's not just a matter of like, well, okay, didn't do so good in school, whatever. It bubbles up to a lot of different areas that are a lot more nefarious. So can we jump into the next slide, producer? I think it's slide number 2. Incarceration rates. Slide number 2, I think it is. Go back to slide number 2. I think it is. Okay, there we go. Okay. All right. Again, I like graphs. I'm a visual learner, so excuse me in case, So someone mentioned the school to prison pipeline, and statistics have shown, people have said, researchers have said that, low reading levels, especially at the young age, directly, connect to high incarceration rates in the older ages. And so there's more going on here than just like, they don't like school. There's more. Again, we talk about a conspiracy to destroy our boys. It's real, because look at the outcome of our children who can't read. That 10%, that 90% that can't read in the graph we showed last time. Well, here's the other side of that. Incarceration rates, comparing Missouri, specifically because we're in Missouri right now, and the United States, and then all other of the industrialized countries. Look at how many people America incarcerates. Wow. And the way it's done is per 100,000, right, in the population. Yeah. But look at the visual just blows my mind. It's like even outside of the square.
Right.
And then look at Missouri. When I talk about Missouri has a heavy oppression here, again, we see physical outcomes, but it all starts with for a spiritual reason. The spiritual oppression here is really heavy and thick. And so Missouri, number 1 murder capital per capita, and one of the top 3, I think, in the world. And we see some of that played out here.
Yeah, and that's astronomical. That's like you wouldn't even believe this if somebody told you. Like Missouri.
Verify. Go look this up. Go to Justice Department, FBI, even the CDC, because as a health thing as well. You can kind of see a lot of these stats out there. So it's not like just cherry picking stats.
Oh, right? Yeah. And just drive around rural Missouri. There are more prisons in Missouri than you will see anywhere else. Oh, yeah. You literally, whenever you enter Missouri or leave Missouri, and you're like, what is this empty road? And then next thing you know, you see a huge building with this barbed wire going across the entire building.
Yeah.
And even as a child, why do you need so many jails?
Yeah,
exactly.
That's not to mention the ones located here in St. Louis.
Yeah, Rita Vaughn says sad. Absolutely. Yeah. So, Ezra, what you gonna say something?
Oh, no, I mean it's I wasn't saying anything, but I mean just looking at the graphs, it's sad to see that the culture here in St. Louis and in Missouri is so anti against our children.
And a part of this too, let me tell you this, Corrine Holder says we have to drill new type of conversations at the dinner table with our children. Single mothers that have boys need to somehow find solid Black men to be mentors in some way to help guide the boys. Absolutely. Yeah, I think, and when we get towards the end, we're going to be talking about some of those, what are the things we can do. So we can talk about, hit the problem, but we got to give some solutions to it. That's really a good one. I think it hits on a lot of points there too. So one of the things, again, we can bring these stats, and sometimes I do presentations in schools and things, right, about some, not the incarceration part, but about the achievement gap. And I feel bad. I feel bad because sometimes I feel like our children, right, our boys or girls, or boys in this case, can digest that and think there's something wrong with them.
Mm-hmm.
They think it's their fault,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
And I have to always let them know it's like, no, it's not your fault. It's our fault, because it's our job to raise you. It's our job to give you the information that you need to be successful in this life. It's our job to be able to protect you and give you all the information, so that you're not, every generation is not trying to figure out on their own, but they can understand, hey, the same way the God of Israel teaches us, the same way we need to teach our children. Because God of Israel always says, hey, go down the street, you're going to see something, don't turn right, turn left. Because we turn right, it's going to take you. He always guiding us exactly what to do. We need to do the same thing with our children to make sure. And not just one, but our whole community needs to be in unison with that same message, that same purpose and value we're trying to instill in our children. C. Field says, the battle we as Israelite adults is in with the gods of the world makes our children open season with them because they're out to destroy us. 100%. Exactly right. Exactly right.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Just let that sink in a little bit. Let it sink in a little bit. Absolutely. Absolutely.
No, it's again, it's one of those reasons where it's tough, especially talking about Jacobite boys, and even tougher for Israelite boys, because now you have this culture, and no matter how hard you try, you're wearing your culture versus the world's culture.
Right.
That culture of I get to go anywhere I want to go, do what I want to do, live lawless, versus the structure of Israel.
Right.
That's a tough position to be in, right? And it really shows you just how our disobedience even led us to this direction anyway, to where this would be such a task to try to take our children just to listen to us,
Yes.
just to say, hey, put that down, don't do that.
Right.
That's like we always say, right? That is not a normal condition for any society to be in.
Right. Right. Well, that's why we say it is a state of emergency, because it's something that we definitely have to address and not just shake our head, but be able to see, what we're going to do about it. Again, as Israelite Nation, Worldwide Ministries, and the traditions of our forefathers, making sure that we're a light to Jacobites out there to say, hey, listen, all this is happening. We can't just, like I'm saying this, and I'm sure a lot of this is not new, right? People have heard this before, but then when we bring it up and we look at the actual numbers, I think a lot of people they get kind of get like a little shocked. Oh my, I can't believe it's really that bad. But it is, and we have to really keep it front and center and understand that the solution is here. We've found a solution. We're trying to broadcast it. That's why we're here on YouTube all the time. We're talking about a solution, understanding exactly what it is that we need that's going to save us, that's going to save our boys. And it's the culture of the Israelite Nation Worldwide Ministries. It's applying the law, statutes, commandments into your life, into your family. And I can personally testify to see that this really has a profound effect in helping protect our children from the influences that are going to guide them the way other Jacobite children are going. But we have to make sure that we take accountability for that in all the roles that we have inside the nation as well.
I like what you said, Elder Jeffrey, about the structure. We don't have the structure, but it starts with a self accountability, which is one of the reasons we talked about baptism. While I'm here, I had to take a self accountability for the things that I've done, that I've learned through Israel that I need to change and help my family, to see structure.
Yeah.
Because right now we're just at a point where, it's just go. Let's just go. Do whatever. There's no real structure, and you see it missing. So once us men step back and we start taking that accountability to say, hey, wait a minute, let's slow this thing down and get in line, because we know in Israel, as an Israelite, that there's one commander, and we all do what we're supposed to do. But this other side has taught us you can do whatever you want, but there's one commander in chief, and he runs the show, and we must listen. So it's structure. But a lot of us don't. A lot of children in society don't, or us men, we hadn't had structure like that. So we we walked away from it. So now it's time to bring it back. And that's one of the reasons I got baptized to make sure that I was able to get back in structure so I can bring it to my family and show structure and build out from there.
Yes. Amen. Amen, Shelby. No, definitely. Thank you for sharing that. And that is so important. And it is so true. And it's one of those things where theoretically it looks like, oh man, the structure is going to be such a drag. And again, it's not always fun, true, honestly. But I got to say, it is very rewarding, very purposeful, and you definitely see results, right? So wait, let's keep going for a little bit. One more thing, if we could do the Jacksonville. The Jacksonville. All right. So we see also, we talk about incarceration, but also, as you know, homicide, leading cause of death among young black males, which probably is not a shocker to individuals. But again, just seeing it and really understanding about what the impact, again, of not having that structure, of these young men not having purpose, of these young men being manipulated by this society, and not people that really care or love them. And this is the outcome: death, death, death at the hands of each other. That's the outcome. Can we go to the next one, producer? In addition to being 50 times more likely to die of homicide, young black men are struggling in other ways. 50 times more likely to die of homicide. And then it goes into some of the other things as that affecting us. I think we've made the point. I think you guys see, there's this a sad state, and just sometimes saying it, but then looking at the actual numbers makes it maybe a little bit more jarring, which is our point this morning. So this evening. So sorry if you guys are having bad feelings, but sometimes that's what it takes to spark action, right? To make sure that we don't forget that this is something important to us. And someone said that there's a thin line, for our children. We got to make sure that, we're there and we're accountable. So with that said, though, as Israel, you understand, there's nothing new under the sun. Right. I think we had this conversation a little earlier. Like a lot of times when we read the scripture, think like, that's 2,000 years ago. That's 3,000 years ago. That's 6,000. How can they possibly understand a world with the internet and with planes flying and the computers, and how could they possibly understand that concept? But understand, our God is the God from the beginning to the middle to the end and for always. And so there's some dynamics that has not changed. And so we've seen this before. We've been here before. Let's open up the Bible, right? And I think you guys are very familiar with these stories. So let's turn to Exodus chapter 1. And we're going to read, I believe, 8 to 22. Exodus chapter 1, 8 to 22. Exodus chapter 1, 8 to 22. And we've seen this before.
Now there arose up a new king over Egypt, which knew not Joseph. And he said unto his people, Behold, the people of the children of Israel are more mightier than we. Come on, let us deal wisely with them, lest they multiply, and it come to pass that when they are fallen out of any war, that they join also unto our enemies and fight against us. And so get thee up out of the land. Therefore they did set over them taskmasters to afflict them with their burdens. And they built for Pharaoh treasure cities, Pithom and Ramses. But the more they afflicted them, the more they multiplied and grew. And they were grieved because of the children of Israel. And the Egyptians made the children of Israel to serve with rigor. They made their lives bitter with hard bondage, in mortar and in brick, and in all manner of service in the field. All their service, wherein they made them serve, was with rigor. And the king of Egypt spake to the Hebrew midwives, of which the name of one was Sephara, and the name of the other Puah. And he said, When ye do the office of a midwife to the Hebrew women, and see them upon the stools, if it be a son, then ye shall kill him. But if it be a daughter, then she shall live. But the midwives feared God, and did not as the king of Egypt commanded them, but saved the men children alive. And the king of Egypt called for the midwives, and said unto them, Why have ye done this thing? And they saved the men children alive. And the midwives said unto Pharaoh, because the Hebrew women are not as the Egyptian women, for they are lively, and they are delivered of the midwives come unto them. Therefore God dealt well with the midwives, and the people multiplied and waxed very mighty. And it came to pass, because the midwives feared God, that he made them houses. And Pharaoh charged all his people, saying, every son that is born you shall cast into the river, and every daughter you shall save alive.
Thank you. Thank you for that. Can we see the connection there, what we're talking about? Right? We see, right? We see us and our forefathers in the land of our captivity. We see the majority in that nation having resentment against us and causing all these oppression to us in every way of life, where we live, what we can do. Again, we couldn't read at some point, right? We don't have fairness when it comes to the law. We have just look at what our boys are going through. And so, again, individuals would talk about even personal experiences of what they would experience as far as the oppression that they would feel in every facet of life. And we see the very same thing happening. Again, nothing new under the sun. The very thing happening, right? It's not by chance. It's not by accident. It's not whatever. The very same things happening there. And the whole purpose is what? To make sure and weaken us, focusing on our boys so that they are not ever in position that they could free themselves and possibly even overtake them.
Right. That's deep.
So it's important that we see that connection, that we really feel that's we've been here before.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, like you said, it's nothing new under the sun. I love, well, of course, I love the scriptures, right? But these stories always speaks vibes, and the reason I love them so much is because I honestly believe, and we talk about this a lot when it comes to reading. The biggest part about Israel is identifying yourself in the scripture.
Yeah.
Because when you identify yourself in the scripture, then you know which route to take in order to overcome whatever problem you're facing.
Yeah.
The reason a lot of our young Israelite men are so disjointed with society is really not getting down to really identify that, hey, I'm an Israelite, but what does that mean?
Yes.
What did my fathers go through that they overcame? What is it that we should do to overcome the situation we're in today?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Chris Sanders said, good to see you on the screen, Shelby.
I concur. Definitely.
Hey, thank you.
Absolutely. And someone had mentioned also Psalms 83, taking crafty counsel, right? So that the name of Israel be no more in remembrance. And especially, so that's why we're here to resurrect that understanding about who we are and understand there is a solution. It seems dire, right? Everything we talked about just almost makes you depressed because you're like, oh my goodness, everywhere you turn, you see the manipulation and the oppression. But Israel is the answer, right? We can see that. I'm not saying it theoretically. I'm saying it because I've seen it work in our culture, in our nation. I've seen it. And so we have people here who can testify to that. We have a young man right here who's been through that, who understands how the culture of Israel, how Rise has been one of the things that has saved him and allowed him to be on the path that he's on right now. So I think it's important that this is one of the reasons why we really want to talk about this.
And a witness. I'm a witness. I see it. That's what we're here for.
Absolutely.
That's what we're here for.
Okay. All right. So again, I see that match so much so about what's happening there. And let's turn to Matthew chapter 2. You guys okay? You guys are good?
Good.
Matthew chapter 2. All right. Again, have you seen this before? Matthew chapter 2, 1 and 3.
You want me to read it?
Yes, please.
All right. Now, when Jesus was born in Bethlehem of Judea in the days of Herod the king, behold, there came wise men from the east to Jerusalem, saying, where is he that is born King of the Jews? For we have seen his star in the east and are come to worship him. For Herod the king had heard these things, he was troubled, and all Jerusalem was with him. I mean, with him.
I'm
So,
sorry. Keep going. Keep going.
oh, keep going.
Hmm.
And he had gathered all the chief priests and scribes of the people together, and demanded of them where Christ should be born. And they said unto him, In Bethlehem of Judea, for thus it is written by the prophets.
Okay, you can pause there. So we know this story, right?
Right?
And so he sends the wise men, and he says, "Go find out where it is. Let me know, so I can come worship him too."
Right.
And so, right, and so they go and find him, but then the angel tells them, "Oh no, don't go back because he's not really going to worship him. He wants to kill him because he's taking his job." Right. And so after that happens, and he doesn't hear word back from the wise men. Let's jump to verse 13.
And when they were departed, behold, the angel of the Lord appeared to Joseph in a dream, saying, Arise and take the young child and his mother, and flee into Egypt, and be thou there until I bring thee word. And Herod will seek will seek the young child to destroy him. You want me to go to what?
Keep going. Keep going.
When he arose, he took the young child and his mother by night and departed into Egypt, and was there until the death of Herod, that it might be fulfilled which was spoken of the Lord by the prophet, saying, Out of Egypt have I called my son. Then Herod, when he saw that he was mocked of the wise men, was exceeding wroth, and sent forth and slew all the children that were in Bethlehem and in all the coast thereof, from 2 years old and under, according to the time which he had diligently inquired of the wise men. Then was fulfilled that which was spoken by Jeremy the prophet, saying, In Ramah was there a voice heard, lamentation and weeping and great mourning, Rachel weeping for her children, and would not be comforted because they are not. But
Okay.
when
All right. You can stop there. Thank you. Thank you for that, Shelby. But are you guys digesting that story and sort of seeing the similarities?
Oh yeah. Oh
Talk
yeah.
to me. Talk to me.
It's sad again under these circumstances, but it's like the trail that leads you back to know who you are. You know who you are because our history suggests that they won't give us the chance. They will not give us the opportunity to even reach a certain age or a certain level. Think about how twisted you have to be. You're so dedicated to going to find this child that you're going from coast to coast and slaughtering all the young males,
Yes.
2 years and younger.
Yes. Yes. Absolutely. And Mr. Sam says, I love that the men of the Israelite Ministries are doing. These lessons are fantastic. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
It's so hard to shed a light into darkness. And there's a comment before that too. I want to make sure that we don't miss any of the comments. Catherine Brown, I like that the culture brings so much positive energy. Absolutely.
Oh yes.
Absolutely.
Oh,
Again,
yes.
these are some hard things to talk about, but what we were talking about it. That's why I began with the end in mind. We have a solution. So we're in a bad state, but we have a solution, and so we want to make sure that we, keep that focus as well. Robin says there is no greater than our Father, the Lord God of Israel, who is our waymaker, our protector, our sword, and our shield. Absolutely.
Amen.
Only through him. Only through him will we be able to survive all these things. But we've done it before. We've done it in Egypt. We've done it when Rome was over us. We've done it so many times, and we're going to do it here too in this new Egypt.
And I think part of it is also understanding our own strengths, because they wouldn't be trying. You're not going to try and weaken somebody who's already weak, right? The only reason why one would need to weaken a people is because you believe that their potential is to be strong,
Right.
and for that people to be strong. So I think even though that is in the scriptures, I think we need to still apply that to today. and see that despite these numbers and all the disparities, we have to understand our own strengths and understand that as a people that we are strong, and that these numbers are not who we are, because there are a lot of systems working against us and have been for the past 400 years. But as we come out of this enslavement, we definitely need to remember our strength and remember the same way how they came out of Egypt in numbers and strength, and with the God of Israel on our side, we need to do the same thing.
100%. 100%.
Right. 100%, I agree.
We see it all those times. Karen Hines says we are all about solutions. 100%. We see from the very in Egypt. We see in Israel, but Rome is over us. Our strength is not measurable. Look what we have come through. 100%. 400 years. 400 years, right? Now where opportunities are here for us to really make a difference and to really flip these things. Just like how the water just flipped everything here in St. Louis, we're about to flip everything and turn everything upside down.
That's right.
And so watch us and see. And I'm going quickly because of time. And we've seen the government make the declaration they had to do something to keep us down in Egypt. Rome had to do something to keep us down while they were over us. And Herod, I know, but he still was a leader out of the Roman Empire. And then now it's no different. Right? So can you please pull up the FBI producer slide? Can you talk to us about this a little bit, Minister Anthony? What is this?
Oh yeah, this was definitely, I was big into this back in my woke days, right? That's what we call it, being woke. But COINTELPRO is a series of illegal surveillance that the government kind of set up, the FBI specifically set up to spy on certain organizations, right? Now, they're supposed to infiltrate, to dismantle, to create distrust, disinterest in these organizations, but they only seem to be specifically focused on Black organizations. As you can see, right, there are white terrorist organizations that are still around today, but there are no Black or what they deem as nationalist organizations still around today. And the whole point, if you look at the marker on 2, was to prevent the rise of a Messiah who could unify and electrify the militant Black nationalist movement.
Wow.
And it goes on to lists like Malcolm X, Martin Luther King, Stokely Carmichael, Elijah Muhammad. It throws out a bunch of different people. But the whole point was to prevent the coalition of militant Black nationalist groups and to prevent unity from existing. When we talk about
so the word Messiah, is that interesting, right? This is exactly what Harold was trying to do, right?
Oh man, it's again, it goes to show you and really to understand, like, just like Ezra said, if I'm so insignificant, then why are you doing this?
Exactly.
Why are you purposely coming in to create disinterest and distrust?
Can you go back to that, please, producer, and go to the slide 2? There's one paragraph there I want to make sure we read. Go to the next slide. All right. It was the 5th point. And all these are the goals of the counterintelligence program. And this is the final goal should be to prevent the long-term growth of militant Black organizations, especially among the youth. Specific tactics to prevent these groups from converting young people must be developed. Right. So again, the target is our young people and our boys. So what we're seeing around us, the stats that we just read at the beginning of this is not happening by chance. It's not some fringe group that is doing these things. This is coming from the top down. No different than Pharaoh, no different than Herod the King, coming down and pronouncing that these are the things we have to do to keep us in check.
That's right.
And we have to make sure that we're clear about this. And this is not some fringe thing. This is information that's pulled from the Freedom of Information Act. It's public record out there to really see, for anybody to take a look at and to see exactly these are the inner workings of what's happening around us. We see the outcome of it, not knowing it comes from, up above to make sure these happen. That's why we use those words very carefully. Conspiracy, right? People coming together to try to make sure that this happens and to keep us in the path that we are. So with that said, the time that we do have, and I know we have about 10 minutes or so, I kind of wanted to say, well, what is our call to action, right? And I want all of us kind of hopefully, give our thoughts and our opinions about what are some of the things that we need to do in order to make sure that we are correcting this, that we are putting us on the right trajectory, that we, men, women, elders, mothers, aunties, all of us are working together to make sure that we are doing what we can to protect our young boys, our Israelite boys, to make sure they are not subjected to that, as well as be the light to those that are around, that in here in Israel is going to be some place that you can find your peace and your purpose in life.
Oh yeah, I love that. I know my biggest call to action is to, if we know Israelite Nation Worldwide Ministries is the answer, then that means that every Israelite man, woman, just like you said, needs to have a vested interest in building up the nation so that we can reach more, so that we can really push forward to get that message out there, so that our children will be able to see what excites us, what gets them going, so that they can come up and take a vested interest in joining groups like Rise, and being a part of programs like iPride, where they get to showcase their talents, all their hard work is able to be shown off for the entire nation to see how brilliant our children are. So we must take a vested interest, not so much finger pointing, not so much blame, because it's always going to be there.
Right.
It's always going to be there. When we read about everything that happened in the scriptures, right, it always comes back to, what are we doing?
Right.
What are we doing? Because we're responsible for the situation we're in by far.
Yeah.
And we cannot continue to give them the credit to say that, hey, they're keeping us down, they're holding us down. So my biggest takeaway is that we must have a vested interest in building up our nation.
True. Taking in, I believe that's taking in self accountability, right? Once again, that's a big thing for me, is all of us understanding, taking that, saying, I want to do, but better yet, having pride in, our kids. Like, we want to have pride in the culture, teach them to have pride in the culture. Like, this is the Israelite culture. It means so much, and it puts so much for the kids. Like we said, a Rise, and like I even said about a feast, being able to watch those kids be happy and fulfilled, and we as the adults, and especially the men, because everything we read about, not saying women are not important, but everything we read about was men establishing that dominance to say, hey, we taking accountability, and let's help, let's step up to the plate and help through this type of means. That we find the God of Israel, and He'll lead us to help our young men grow. This culture is everything I've found. So I think that's it. We got to take a step, take that accountability, and move towards it. Just take it on and move towards it. It's not easy, but we can do it.
I'd like to hear from the audience, to put in the chat, what are some of the suggestions that you have as well of what we could and should be doing to make sure that we are doing all we can for our young men. I know when we had our discussions, we were talking about some of the positive notes from the scriptures where we show those examples of young men doing some great things. Let's go through, we only have about like 5 minutes or so. Let's go through them very quickly. We don't have time to go read the scripture, but give us a little synopsis. So we talked about Daniel, and and we know that he was born in Israel, but then as a young boy, he was brought over, to Babylon in captivity, land of his captivity. But there, he became one of the top people, in the government because of his love of education, because he was understanding and knowledge in the sciences and all these various things that he had. He was made top there. So we have example and role models in the scriptures of young men with the Israelite foundation and within them, even though they're in the land of captivity, in a hostile environment, still their God is able to let them to be successful. So it don't matter that the tests are skewed. It don't matter that the teacher don't like them. It don't matter all those things. If they know who they are and they serve their God, even in those hostile environments where everybody's against them, we see examples where our children are able to thrive and actually rise to the top over and above their enemies.
Oh yeah, I always love the story of Daniel, right? And just even there's so many of them, right? One of my favorite people from the scriptures is Joshua. just what
Yep.
he was able to do to overcome, to see the downfalls, and he didn't misstep. He did
Another
not
young
misstep.
man, another young man. He was born in captivity, right? His nationality would be Egyptian, right? He was
Yep.
born in Egypt, but then he was.
Went
We
through the
talk
Red
about
Sea.
So in Daniel, we talk about love for education. We sort of at Daniel. With Joshua, we see he had great mentor. I mean, you read through the scriptures, you see Moses, Joshua's right there. Sometimes he's called his minister, he's called his young man, he's right there with them. And so great mentorship. We have examples like that in the scriptures as well. Like you said, Joshua's one of those guys who eventually becomes, the head of the nation because of that great mentorship that he had with Moses.
And didn't let the Egyptian mindset set in on him.
Right. That's right. 100%. Other thing you mentioned, Shelby, had to do with purpose, right? And I think that's a part of it as well, right? When it comes to Joshua, right? He had that purpose that was there because he knew the purpose was we are going to get out of Egypt and get to the promised land. Now, if it was up to Joshua, it would have taken 40 years, right?
Right.
Right away.
He had purpose in mind, right? And he was ready. Can you imagine how upset, you're ready, you got to wait 40 years for everyone else to get ready?
Right.
Patience.
Yeah,
Oh my goodness. Oh, Artisha Sam says, can we get a part 2? Well, actually, this probably would be a part 3 because this kind of is like a part 2 from
the role of men.
Role of men. So I agree. I feel like we've opened it up a little bit, but I still think we could dive in a lot more into this as well.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Let our Israelite, Veronica Hall says, let our Israelites' actions speak louder than our words. 100%. True. That's right, man. That's right. Rena says, these young men choose to uphold their culture and God with no wavering or compromise. That's
Amen.
Right.
Amen.
Yes.
Regardless of the circumstance.
That's right. That's right. So, Ando said, great study tonight, St. Louis. So thank you, Priest Ando. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
And so we talk about Daniel, we talk about Joshua. Who else did we have? I'm looking to see exactly.
We had King Hezekiah.
King Hezekiah. Talk to us about that.
I love his story so much.
Give us the 1 minute version.
All right, the 1 minute version. Okay, so King Hezekiah, right, is the son of a king of I forget Judah, Israel. I think Judah. So much so, he serves the God of Israel with so much passion, right? That there wasn't a king before him or after him who served the God of Israel the way he did. Mm-hmm. So much so that even when the God of Israel referenced to him, right, it didn't say his direct dad, right? It referenced back to David, his father David, the passion that he had for the God of Israel, the things that he was able to do. So much so that Assyria had just come and taken Israel away, right? And they were
Thank you,
coming.
Rachel. Rachel says, super interesting topic. Thank you, St. Louis.
Oh, definitely. Thank you. Thank you. They were coming. Assyria was coming in to take captive. They want Judah now. Mm-hmm. So much so that the God of Israel even told him, "Don't leave. I will protect this city. I will protect this city." And King Hezekiah was so important that the God of Israel even lengthened his life because of that. Because of the passion he had to serve the God of Israel and the God of Israel's children.
Yes.
Love that story. Definitely check it out. Second Kings chapter 18, I believe.
Chapter 18. And I think, so, number one, how that ties to our young men and two things. Number one, he was like 25 when he became king.
Yes, 25.
Right? So young men. Again, talk about king of a nation. So by 25, he had to have a lot of teaching and tutelage to make sure that he was prepared in order to do that. Right? Absolutely right. And so the second thing is, like you mentioned, him being connected so much so to David. David wasn't his father or his grandfather, right? He goes back generations. But there's that connection so much so, right? And that's kind of what we're doing with our children and with this generation is bridging that connection. This society tells you have no history that's worth remembering. You have no history. You were savages in Africa or whatever their narrative is now. I think some people say Native Americans in America, whatever. Just whatever the craziness is of the time, we're telling our children the truth, right? Your history does not begin with slavery. Your history begins with, in the beginning, God created the heavens and earth.
That's right.
Your lineage and history is rich and strong. and you come from great stock, and you can find a role model in that lineage because their blood flows through you, that you could amplify and become the manifestation of that individual now here in 2022 or whatever this is. So it's that connection of Hezekiah, seeing that connection with his great grandfather David and patterning his life after that is something that we seek to do here as well. Make that connection between our ancestors.
Right.
Amen.
So make us some final words. We're here at the end, but go ahead, Ezra, Mr. Anthony, Shelby, give us some final words before we sign out.
I just want to thank everyone for joining us for this lesson and to really take heed to a lot of the points that were made today, right? Our children are the result of what it is that we're doing. And if we're not pushing that needle, if we're not fighting to really push that narrative, then they won't either.
Right.
So we really have to take a vested interest in our children and in our nation.
That's right.
Yes, and I think it's also important that we, big up our youth to make sure that the youth also leads the youth, because we know how important it is for the younger youth to look at the older youth and to have examples to see and to follow. So I think that's also important to remember, and also to remember that we serve the greatest God, and we serve the God of Abraham, God of Isaac, God of Jacob. So everything is possible. Anything is possible. All your dreams are possible. All your goals are possible. So, always think big, always think large. And I encourage everybody, no matter your age, to constantly go after whatever it is that you want in your life, and teach your children, and we teach our children, to walk that way.
And for me, I'm going to say once again, we are the God of Israel's. We are special to Him. Amen. To the God of Abraham, to the God of Isaac, and the God of Jacob. We are special to Him. And once we really, really understand that and take that in, we embrace the culture and move forward. I'm hoping that every young man that that watches this video, this broadcast, and understands that that's who we are. Amen. And we're special. He calls us special. He calls us a peculiar treasure. And that's where we need to step into place and be.
All right. Thank you, Shelby. Thank you, Minister Anthony. Thank you, Ezra. I'm going to leave it there. Thank you guys for joining us. Please like, share, and comment. And until next time, peace.